Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Nelson with TUG, and we're so glad to have you join us today for our TUG Connects 365 programming. As you settle in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, let me give a brief introduction for TUG, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community of Infor software distribution users. We've all heard the phrase knowledge is power, and I can say with confidence that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up tomorrow with a little more of both. Today is but one of our many in-depth sessions in our TUG 365 series. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events such as this facilitate the timely exchange of ideas and information to help you work smarter and with more confidence. Now that's a powerful combination. If you're currently a member, it pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, do visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do. Before we get started, let me just touch base on some housekeeping information. Buckle up for about 45 minutes. Questions for our panel that are presenting today can be dropped into the Q&A bubble on your toolbar, and feel free to comment and share insights with those of you in chat, and you can also talk amongst yourselves privately as well. You're in control of your view, so if you go to the upper right corner on your screen, you can select to show the presenter in the side view, standard view, or speaker view mode. And now, without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce John Kociuba. John, go ahead and take it away and introduce your esteemed panel of presenters today. John, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Good morning. Can everybody see me?
We have you in sight.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. My name is John Kociuba, and I'm your SIG leader for the Assembly and Service. And I'm proud to present to you today a day in the life of the Service Department. As you probably can tell, this will be, we're planning many of these over the next 8 months. But before I start, I want to thank all the presenters and all the participants today for their time and dedication to the success of this group and to these webinar series. Secondly, I'd like to thank TUG and the TUG board for giving us these tools to succeed during this difficult time, as well as to Gary and Karen Brown and all the team at Members Inc. And finally, a big shout out to Gloria Nelson. She's been a superstar in the webinar and Zoom world, and without her coaching us today, none of this would be possible. Our panelists obviously include today one company on CloudSuite Field Service, which is Midwest Wheel. Steve, give a quick wave. And we also have one company today on ISM that's moving to CloudSuite Field Service. That's Shawn and Rodney. Can I have a little wave there? And of course, myself, who has an avid service warranty user who has just purchased CSFS and CSD, and we're looking to migrate away from service warranty. So obviously, we've talked about our three companies with different panels. I'd like to pull out a poll question. So Gloria, can you bring up our first poll question? And what we'd like to see is what type of service package you are on. First, obviously, service warranty, ISM, CSFS. Maybe you're using a third-party software, or currently you're exploring options.
And we have just a little over half of our online audience today that's with us viewing. If you want to jump on, we'd love to hear from you. Just a couple more seconds here and we will close this down. We're at about 66%. We know that you're out there lurking and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so could anybody of the panelists think of what the percentage is going to be there? Do you think a lot of people are exploring options in service right now, or they're already comfortable where they're at? Shawn, Rodney, anybody can give me some insight, do you think?
Well, we know several are exploring or on the ISM CSFS path. I guess depending on how well you do today, John, we'll see if they're pursuing other options.
Well, there you go. Well, look at that. Well, actually the most are on service warranty, and we have 27% that are looking to obviously a new option. So that's great. So Obviously, our role in the next year is to try to get that number up and get a lot more people onto ISM and CSFS. I'll move on. Obviously, today we want to start on a series of webinars. Today, we want to obviously do a comparison of a demo in service warranty and how that would look like in ISM and CSFS. So we're just going to briefly go through background history of our companies. And then each of us are going to open, schedule, and print an SRO today. On January 8th, we have a second part 2 series where we'll build on that, and we'll move to adding parts, adding labor, and closing the work order and presenting the work order to the customer. Obvious and future topics beyond that, when we've had some chats on our forum page, but we're planning on doing every second Friday of the month starting in February until June 2021, and we're going to be talking about a number of subjects. So we're going to be obviously talking about CSF rentals, roadmap items. We have some users that are interested in the mobile app. We also have a series coming up of Ask a CSFS User, and we're obviously looking to make sure that we cover every aspect of migration from service warranty to CSFS. So we'll also be talking about vendor claims if you do that today in service warranty. I also want to again bring up our group, something that I hope everybody subscribe to our group, the Assembly and Service SIG group. So we are obviously companies that assemble and service products within the distribution world. That may include service warranty, value add, kit production, ISM. We really need more chatter on this. So if you have questions, please post your questions or comments in the group. We can definitely affect change in the software in numbers. Another great resource is the Infor customer communities page. If you haven't already signed up, I think that's recommended. There is an Infor service management piece there as well, and they do provide monthly newsletter updates to all users. Of course, Gloria did go through the ground rules, but I'm just going to reiterate, this webinar is for you. So we're looking for you to join the conversation. Your experience is invaluable. Your input is very much appreciated. Obviously, your microphones are muted, but if you want to come on and ask a question, please enter that in the chat box or the bubble, raise your hand, and we always want your feedback. So the other thing with me is it's Friday. For some of you, I think overseas, it's almost Saturday, but I like to have fun. I don't like to be too serious, but let's have a great conversation today. We're going to move on to the demo portion. Obviously, I did talk earlier. My name is Shawn. I'm with the Gear Center group of companies. I'm a ground up general manager. I started in 1993. Started from shipping, receiving, worked my way up to general manager, and today I'm the ERP manager responsible for our software. So been attending TUG and Infor since 2007, and our company is we're in truck parts. We service vehicles, and we work on exchange components. We have cores, we have serialized items. So we're a group of companies that started in 1975. In 2008, we went live on SX.e from our legacy system. We went on to 55040. We sat on that version for several years. So in 2018, we converted from 55040 to 11.18.6. We did also produce a roadmap. Obviously, we all know that the cloud is inevitable. So we have a 3-year roadmap to get to the cloud. So back in TUG of 2020, I think the discussion finally came that we should probably look at signing up for CSFS and for CloudSuite distribution, and we did that on September 30th. So we're still in the early stages, not like Graphic Solutions, who's been on that product for several years, and Steve, who has been on it for already a year. So we're trying to play a little bit of catch up here. So, okay, so before the demo starts, I'd like to ask one more question. So Gloria, if you can take it away.
Polling question, you mean, John? Sorry.
Polling question, yes. Polling question. Polling question number 2. I apologize.
No worries. Just checking. Here we go.
And the polling question is: what is your current cloud plan? So what's your plan to move to the cloud? Is it within 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, 3+ years, or you're never going to move to the cloud. So we'll just wait a few minutes for that to come in. I'd be very surprised if somebody said never.
Sharon Jenkins just wrote in the Q&A bubble. She says, "Hey, I'm already there." She says, "Where's that option?"
Well, that is true.
We are up to 60% of our online viewers response. We'd like to see a few more. We love to get around 80-85%. So don't be afraid to click your mouse. Nobody's here to sell you. We're just all here to find out and gear the conversation where it needs to go. So we'll give it just a couple more seconds there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down now, and I will launch the results for you, John.
All right. Well, 62% say they're doing it within 1 to 2 years. That's fantastic. So yeah, there's still a bit of a small percentage of not going to the cloud. I guess we'll see what happens in the coming years. So anybody got any comments on the panelists on that result?
No, sir, it's all you.
None. All right, so we'll move on to the demo portion of it. Again, hopefully everybody can see my screen. I'm in an old graphical user interface. So I will quickly just do my demo because of course it's old software, and we'll try to get this over to Shawn and to Steve quickly so we have lots of questions on that side. So obviously in the truck parts industry that for the most part, we work on vehicles. So service warranty, I was told years ago that it was designed for the Toro group. Again, that's what I was told. So I'm assuming that information is accurate. Our process in our service shops are very similar to your local dealership and when you take your vehicle in for servicing. So we also take components in for repair as well. But our ERP department's always said, service warranty does the work and OE does the billing. So I'm just going to quickly jump in. I've already created a work order. 1563. And I'm not going to get into too much detail. Again, this is old software. We want to just see the flow between service warranty and ISM and CSFS. But I'm just going to jump right into it. Our divisions or our warehouses, we don't have alternate warehouses for our service department. So if you're at a branch today, you have a parts department and a service department. They're all within the same warehouse within SX.enterprise. We don't use we only use the master billing. We do have several mods within service warranty, and it really comes down to the presentation of the invoice and the work order to the customer. We want it to be different than our order entry work orders and our invoices. So we do have several mods to do that. So one of them is obviously how are we going to present the order to the customer. In this particular case, if you have a vehicle, obviously the customer wants to see every line itemized detail, you know, what you did and the type of labor you did. But in some cases, if you bring a component in and you're expecting it to be $100, we don't need to show you that we put 1,000 parts into it. So sometimes we'll roll that back up. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of these screens. We do, for the most part, when we do service warranty, we do a quote first, present the quote to the customer, and then convert that quote once we have approval. But today I'm just going to jump right into billing the customer for the unit. And the other option that we also do is we also set up vehicles. So if the customer brings it in, we're able to track the mileage on the work order, print the mileage on the work order, that type of thing. In service warranty, our workflow is then to obviously ask what the repair line is going to be. In this particular case, they want us to look at a steering gear that is leaking on the vehicle. So we'll quickly jump into line detail. We present what the problem is in problem text. If we've sold the customer that unit in the past, we also then will enter the serial number as well there. And on our work order, it will present the warranty date when we originally sold it to them and that type of thing. Last but not least, and again, I'm going very quickly here, we schedule the work. Obviously, scheduling in service warranty is quite limited. In our cases, we don't typically book service out for a week at a time. If the customer has the vehicle in, we typically will start right away. So we typically will just add the date and go from there. Obviously, we'll assign a tech to it and then move on. Once we've done that, all we at this point do is just print the work order, and then we walk away from it. So as you can see, I've printed off again, I've gone very quickly. I don't know if there's any questions here, but I've just printed off a sample work order of all the items we want to see in the work order. So obviously we want to show the vehicle information, the customer, purchase order, that type of thing. If again, we did refer to a sale that we had sold them previously, then the warranty and the original sales date will come along for the ride. Problem text as well. And the other thing you'll notice quickly is that we do barcode, and this will be this will come more in handy the next session when we talk about adding labor. But we use this work order to give to our techs, and our techs use this barcode to scan in their job times. So is there any questions, Rodney, about service warranty and how we? It's all me.
There is one question, John, and it's from Dan Landry, and it may be one that Steve has to answer. But the question is that in the past, there were issues or there was not integration with service warranty in TWL warehouses, and he's asking if that has been resolved. And our service warehouses are not utilizing TWL, so I cannot answer that question.
Steve?
Steve here. We're not using TWL in that warehouse either. I don't believe it works with the current CloudSuite Field Service, but I know it's on an ERS in process. Can't give you a timeline yet. Good question for Infor, though, if you're going down the path, ask them when that will be done.
I've actually fired off a question to Infor, John, and hopefully I'll have an answer before the conclusion of the webinar.
Yeah, I think that question should also be posted onto our forum as well, and I can definitely follow up as well with Infor if they do not get back to us on this one. So again, I don't want to take too much of the time because I think more of the resources and focus should be on the ISM piece with Graphic Solutions and with Steve at Midwest Wheel. So if there's no other questions on how I open a work order, again, I ran through that process quite quickly. Then I will turn it over to Shawn and he can start his demo. Shawn, take it away.
All right, everybody can see my screen there?
Not yet. We just see you. Now we got you.
There it goes. Okay, so Shawn Mason with Graphic Solutions Group. We are currently moving from what you just saw there to the on cloud. We come from the Square modules. We have 3 service teams right now, and we are primarily in the field. We don't do much depot service at all, but we have a digital, we have a screen printing and embroidery, 3 separate teams. And so it's important to be able to keep that stuff separate. So if any of you have done this kind of stuff, in the old days, we were using preloaded PDFs, which, you know, you had multiple people having to take that information and re-enter it into SX. Of course, price changes, new parts. It was a static form that you were always having to upload that database. And of course, the biggest one is, you know, you're calling around, you've got to send a text somewhere. He shows to have a print head on the SX side. You're calling in, you find out, oh, you know, you sent him somewhere and he used it yesterday. He hasn't had a chance to put his paperwork in, or he hasn't gotten entered. So there's a lot of pain points there. And now with the ISM, we're kind of a hybrid because we're still on-prem and going to the cloud. We're either using Apple or Microsoft devices. The SX orders is automated. You always have the current pricing and you have live inventory. That's probably the biggest thing of all. So I'm going to show you here a demo here real quickly. Sorry, just gonna get my screen share pop back up. Multiple screens here. Well, I may have to ask for help here, Gloria. Can you switch me over to the?
Actually, Shawn, if you stop screen sharing for a moment, if you go ahead and stop your screen sharing, and then go over to the other screen and pull it into view, I'll let you know when we have it in full screen.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Not seeing the demo portion yet.
Okay. Is it popped up yet?
Nope. You need to hit that green button that says share screen and then choose the right screen. And then there's a little blue box in the lower right-hand corner that says share once you've selected the screen. So you have to make sure that you take that final step.
I'm sorry, got you here.
No worries. Happy to be of service.
There we go. How about that? Share it up.
I'm back to your PowerPoint presentation. We need to
sorry.
be, we
Yeah,
need to
I'm
have,
sorry.
that's okay.
Okay, there we go. I got the screenshot stopped sharing there.
Yeah. And so now you want to go over to share screen and choose your one with your web browser on it for viewing. And so we see the trusted bison again. So we should be in the right place this time. Whoops.
Yeah, there we go. Oops, sorry.
Whoops. You stopped sharing again. So it disappeared. And we just thank everyone for their patience. This is all new platform for everyone in TUG, and we're getting our sea legs. And
There
there
we
you go. We have you in full sight now.
All right, sorry about that. All right.
No worries.
So the very first step you're going to do is if somebody comes in, they're going to want to create the incident. So we've got some people already in here, but we're going to start from scratch. So if you were to create the incident, it's going to bring up here, and I'm going to use a customer that, since we're in the live site, and you can see that you can pick your different locations, and it will pre-populate if you have different customers listed in here. In this case, I'm going to pick one that I don't want to send a customer. So I've actually set up a customer here, a contact, so they don't get an email here. So you can put in a quick description, and then you can put in notes to the tech. So the customer will get a quick email. So once we create this incident, it may not be a case where the customer is going to need an on-site visit, but this will put it into the queue here. And it's going to tell you it's an incident number. It's also going to send an email to the customer and let them know that there's been an incident created. And in this case, if we were to say, hey, we're going to go back on site right away, or later on down the road, we realize, hey, we need to go on site, we would pick this one here. We notice we don't have an SRO created here. Well, we would tell it we're going to go ahead and cross-reference to an SRO. And from here, it's pretty quickly, we have different templates because we have the different divisions. But in this case, we'll say, hey, this is a digital call and it's a billable call. Now we can always make changes while we're out in the field, but we're going to select that. And now you'll notice that it has an SRO number here. So if I were to go to the calendar scheduling right here and refresh the schedule, and you can see we've been very busy today. That's what you get when being live. And drag this thing into your queue. Let's say that I want to go out there on Monday at 9 a.m. So basically, we're really just going to tell it, hey, how many hours do I need to be on site? And who's my partner that's going? And you can see we have it configured. And so I'll select myself here. Here we could add in more notes, even more notes to the tech to say, hey, you know, gate code or anything else you wanted to add, and simply commit it here. And if we refresh it, that one disappears. So from here, the tech's going to get an invite telling he's going on site. And then if he goes into the mobile app, he has the ability to go and look at his calls. In this case, I was putting a couple of them in here, but you can see the call for Monday is right here. And if I double click it, I can see that the customer's Pointsmith. I can see some notes that we had put in there about there. We can see the terms for the customer, and we can see it's an active call right now. So if I go into and say that I want to go in and put in, let's say that we do have materials. We don't always have materials, but if we do have materials, it's very nice just to go through these different icons here. And here is the operations. And so basically what operations are saying, hey, is this a warranty call? Am I billing it back to a vendor? In which case you can set up overrides where it bills the vendor directly, or hey, I'm going to bill the customer for it. And so in this case, we're going to say, yeah, we're going to leave it as billable to the customer. And we could hit a drop-down list like this, or we could simply just type in a part. And it'll return back and it's going to say, okay, you got this. I'm going to say, yes, I've used one of them. And save that. And in the app, you'll actually use a little back arrow, but I'm simulating the app right here. And then you can go back and say, okay, now let's put in our labor products. And same thing here. We could say it's a billable or warranty call. We can hit our drop-down codes. We've got ours by division here, so you can see that we have the digital, then the embroidery and the screen. But in this case, let's say, hey, we're going to bill them for travel. And you can obviously customize all your pricing so that you could say, hey, I'm doing 2 hours here. And if you had other miscellaneous items, expenses, things like that, you could enter them in here, airfare, cars, stuff like that, that weren't necessarily inventory items. And then once we've got our parts entered, then I can just simply go into the resolutions and I can put in, and not a lot of words there, but you can see where you could type in quite a bit of notes, and you have the ability to add pictures and things like that. So we'll save that there. And then lastly, once we're through with all this, we can go to the work order ticket here, and it'll generate a ticket here, and it'll tell you that, you know, this once again remind you that, hey, this guy's warranty would pop up here, what their terms are about collecting a check or a credit card or something. And you can see right here that I can tell, you know, I know what I have to collect if I were collecting. This guy's a net 30, but if I were collecting, here it is from here. And you even have the ability to go and authorize credit card, have the customer sign it, and close that ticket out. So from there, when we go back here, so we're back to the main screen. So each time we kind of go back to that main screen and kind of work from left to right. Now I didn't punch in and out, but you could turn on a clock if you want to keep track of your time. It doesn't necessarily bill them for that, but if you just want to keep a timer on how much time you've been on site. So the nice thing about it is once I've done all this, I've added my notes, have the tech, you know, have the customer sign. I simply go here and I close the service ticket. And in this case, I want to show you this. So really nice feature here. You can enable this as if you don't have the inventory, then it's going to come back and tell you, hey, you can't close this ticket out. You can't go create a ticket negative inventory right here because we don't have this in your inventory. So it's a quick reminder to go back and fix inventory, find a PO or a WT that wasn't received. And then from there, when you do close this ticket out and save it, it is going to create a ticket, a service order in SX. So the minute you enter that first line item, it's already sending back BODs back over to SX side and creating that order number. And any changes you make until you go and close it out are going to be active, making changes back and forth. And then as a service manager, you still have the option to go back and review that ticket and make any changes that need to be made, or simply just say, yeah, it's as good as it is and set it to invoicing, or you can tell it to automatically, once the tech says it's done, go ahead and invoice it that night. So very, very powerful. We were thrilled about this, but so I'm going to throw it over to Steve. He's going to show you what the future is and where we're actually going next. So Steve, I'll let you take it away, buddy.
Okay. All right, so hit share, and so I'm going to cover this a little bit different than what Shawn, in the fact that what we've done is integrated it with CloudSuite distribution. And in those steps, there's a few things you got to deal with, and that's in CloudSuite distribution, you can have 4 characters in your ship via. In CloudSuite Field Service, you can only have 3. So it's one of those things you got to create some ship vias that'll fit. Unit of measure has got a similar issue, but you can use the EDI coding. You have to have a user set up for integration so that it can talk back and forth. In the customer side of things, this is one I got to warn everybody to look out for. In SX, you can say ship to required. And in CloudSuite Field Service, it assumes there's always a ship to. So you run into issues where if you don't specify a ship to, you can end up getting yourself in a bad situation. So we just want to make sure that we are always aware of that. And we've added some notes inside the application to make sure that we don't miss that. Sorry, my screen's bouncing on me here. Anyway, I'm going to jump into the demo a little bit. I guess quickly how things are working before we jump into the demo. The BODs that flow out of SX into CloudSuite distribution for integration, you'll see this map from Infor, but items are owned by SX. You can see it's a one-way arrow. The vendor master and customer master can be a two-way arrow. The problem with it being a two-way arrow is that you got to decide whether you want your SX system to be the master of your vendor information, or do you want them both to be masters? In other words, you can edit it in both places. Same on the customer side. What we've done is block that. We want SX to be the master of the information master records, and so we don't allow people to send updates to SX. I'd rather get a note saying, hey, they're trying to make this change, and then we can get someone to vet that. Inventory is owned by SX. Sourcing, we send purchase orders into SX. Revenue as far as making sales, we're creating OEs in SX, so it's going inbound, and you can create purchase orders to be paid in SX. So it all looks super complicated and crazy, and all I can really say to that is, you know, it was fast. It really wasn't as hard as it looks. There are a couple of great places to go for information even before you purchase the product. These two links, I don't believe you even have to have the product to get into it. The bottom one's kind of an index page on a public site to go through and click. Some of the things are going to make you log in, but others will let you click and look and kind of see how things work. That top link is talking about CSD to CloudSuite Field Service directly, kind of integration and the steps you would go through. And then I'll pop into doing a demo incident. Okay, so we should see the system here. First thing, I'm right in the incident quick create form. This is another version of the screen that Shawn was just showing, but this is in the full app. A few things to take note of: when it has a little corner like this, this is a required field. So you cannot get off this form unless you populated that field. The CSD system has a lot of things like that. You can go in and turn this on and off by the field. So if your business, you decide this is something that's required, you can turn it on and make it required for yourself. Customers, I'm just going to, in the interest of going very quickly here, we'll just pick a customer. This is where I was saying ship to. We've added this red text here to remind our service techs, don't forget to ship to. In this case, this customer has a required ship to an SX of 001. If we don't pick this 001, things will break back and forth. So this is an ERS that's in process with Infor. They're going to make that default in if it's defaulted in SX. So that's coming. The other thing you'll notice in the incident form is if PO is required in SX, it will be required here. If you were to go directly into the SRO, it kind of assumes you know more and you're going to go directly to the customer's information, and you can bypass that again and cause some problems with the integration. So our processes always go incident to SRO, similar to what Shawn was doing. So we'll just call this test. Another thing, we're a depot operation. For the most of the time, we're working with people's trucks that come in. So most of the time, we're working with VIN numbers. So if I hit the drop down for this customer, all these VIN numbers are associated with their account for work we've done. I've got a little test one I created here. So at that point, you could make it a warranty claim. You could do the same thing Shawn was showing with notes. We have our system configured to carry these notes over to the SRO. That's something you can decide whether you want to or not. Obviously, spelling's important if you plan on printing these later. And then you can do your template from right here. For us, we're going to create an SRO. We're going to use our basic template. And when we hit OK, it's going to pop over and start creating an SRO. So it tells me I've created the incident. We've got the SRO up here. I'm going to say open the service orders form when I hit OK. And really, I'm not going to change anything that I've done on the incident. I'm just going to say go ahead and create me an SRO in this case. And when I hit OK here, I'm going to go right into a new SRO I've created to do the work. And you can see it's pre-populated a lot of things. It says who's going to bill it, who our lead partner is going to be. I've got some default things created. One thing I don't have is an operation here. And I'm going to create an operation only because we're going to dispatch that operation, which is another way of scheduling that Shawn didn't really go through. So I wanted to show it both ways. We have a lot of operation codes that we've created that will automatically fill in some information. But that's the minimum you would need right here if I just wanted to create that operation. If I hit save, and now if I go back to the incident, you'll see I now have an operation to be scheduled. Now I can dispatch this incident and schedule this out. So if I go to schedule, I'm going to dispatch a tech to work on it. One thing we've done here is we've made several of these fields required. So you cannot dispatch an incident without putting the line that's associated with and the operation that's associated with. And we do that because our techs use the ISM mobile app. And when they put notes in, I want the notes they put in to be on the operation they're working on. If you dispatch without doing the operation, the notes will fall, they'll go to the header of the SRO. And like John was saying, it's really about what's presented to the customer. When you get to the end and you've got a bill, it's got 1,000 part numbers on it, you really want the notes that the technician put on it to be near where the work is done and when the parts gathered together and the labor together. If it wasn't for needing those kind of things in an item history, you wouldn't even mess around with it. You just do everything in CloudSuite distribution. These are the things that make having a service platform important. So I'm going to say I'm going to work on it. We're going to do line 1, operation 10. I'm going to put Larry on that. And if I just hit create appointment, I can dispatch an email to him as well. But if I hit create appointment, that appointment's been created. It gave him the next possible. This happens to be our service manager. He doesn't work on things. But at that point, it's on his iPad. He can bring it up, start entering his notes, entering his materials, and continue on the work order. So really, that's kind of how we use it day in and day out. The other thing that we do for our techs is we have a little envelope because we're a depot organization. So we'll hit work order report, and we typically just hit print, but I'll hit preview so we can see it on the screen. And this will take a second because typically you would just hit print and you would walk away and not think about it. Well, while we're waiting for that to complete, what it's doing is it's just giving me a header with some basic information about the unit, the operation to be done, and any notes that the person that created the incident has put on that. And here's my luck. I clicked that and I broke it, but that's when you're doing test things. But the whole point is it's a blank piece of paper telling the technician that hit this vehicle, this unit number needs, maybe a brake job done or something done. And then the technician can take that and go to his iPad, scribble his notes on that piece of paper until he's ready to put a formal note and story behind what he's done. So from that, I think we'll turn it back over to questions, and we'll let John or Rodney take the questions.
Hey, Steve or group, we have a question from Wade Wehunt about when you're making it a warranty claim, is that internal or is that for a vendor? And Wade, I can speak for GSG and certainly let the other panelists chime in, but typically for us, a warranty claim, or always for us, a warranty claim is something that we're claiming out to the vendor. So we're not billing the customer. We're basically generating an AP invoice to the vendor to reimburse us for the parts, or in some cases, we have vendors reimburse us for labor on warranty claims.
We're really the same. We would want to build a vendor out for the claim.
Yeah, we're in the same boat as well. And just as another side note, we are looking to add vendor claims as another webinar moving forward as well. A question I have for the panelists, as well as Rodney and Steve, maybe give us some history as to, Rodney, you've been on, I've known you for several years and you've been on ISM for years. Why did you buy it? Where are you at today? Why are you moving to CloudSuite Field Service?
We have a couple questions lined up, John, so I want to make sure we get to those, but I'll answer that quickly. We bought the product a number of years ago. I think we bought it actually in 2017, and it kind of became a cart before the horse as far as keeping up with our versioning history and getting to where we were with ISM. The reason we bought it, quite frankly, was as Shawn detailed in the very beginning, all of our operations prior to this were we had the sweat swear functionality in SX, but anything we were doing in the field was manual. It was a manual sort of fillable PDF that had to be sent in. There were a lot of back end operations that had to be duplicated because those orders had to be entered in. We did not have live inventory. Scheduling was very cumbersome in the sweat swear module. So really, we just needed a completely integrated solution. And one thing that is with us doing field service and having over 20 technicians in the field, each one of our service techs dispatches out of their own warehouse. So inventory out of those warehouses became extremely critical. We are now fully live on-prem with ISM. We're in a transition plan to go to CSD and take full advantage of some of the new features. I can tell you that, in the first couple of years, it seemed to be slow moving with the development of the product, but over the last year, there's been rapid movement and development of the product, and they've been fantastic at looking at the ERSs that we've submitted and socialized through TUG and bringing those into the product roadmap, and a lot of those have already made it into standard. Before we pass it on, let me make sure we get to these questions so we don't run out of time. Sharon Jenkins has asked, does anyone use inspections on the work order?
Set them up. I have not used them. I don't know in your end. We just assume that's just kind of the next step for us. They work, they come up on the iPad, they can click whether they've read a voltage or yes or no, answered questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah, same for us, Sharon. We're not using them yet, but we did see them. Actually, we just saw it this week on a new version of the mobile app, and they're really fantastic. And we will be using those inspections. And I know we'll do another presentation with a deeper dive into the mobile app later because it's very robust, but it also gives you the ability to take pictures of the service work when you're on site at a customer. It has barcode scanning capabilities. So if your parts are barcoded on your bins, you can actually take a picture of the barcode and automatically enter those items that you're using. And if a customer sends in to your service department a picture of a particular problem, you can take that picture attachment from an email and put it into the SRO so the technician can see a visual image of the problem that he's going out to repair. Next question is from Shelly Abruzzo. Does this have the ability to directly source parts PO and ship directly to the customer from the vendor for installation at a later date? Anyone?
I guess I didn't follow that one more time.
Basically,
I don't believe it does, Rodney. I know for the way we're handling it, we would enter the PO separately in the POET module.
What the question was, Steve, is can you source directly from ISM? Can you generate a PO to the manufacturer out of ISM or CSFS and have it shipped directly to the customer from the vendor? Basically, send the part there in advance of the technician arriving, source it directly out of the CSFS module.
Yes, it will generate a PO, not for a direct ship, though. That would probably take some thinking how that would work. But yeah, right now, when you source a part from a vendor, it will generate the PO in POET automatically and really won't let you post it to the SRO until you've posted it in SX.e. That gets back to who owns the postings and that kind of thing. So when SX.e posts the inventory and it notifies CloudSuite Field Service that that product is now available and you can now post it or to your actual work order. Direct ship, no.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody from the tour group on right now, but I do recall that being a concern of theirs, and I just don't remember what their option was there, whether that was doable moving forward.
There are efforts. That's another ERS. I think it probably came from them. That it's in process, from what I understand. I was trying to figure out the project, why you would want it, but I guess if you were doing an on-site service at a future date, that'd be a good reason.
We can take that. We can certainly take that question and get clarity on that and post that in the TUG forum in the service group, just to get clarity on whether or not we can do a drop ship PO sourced directly out of CSFS on a drop ship PO to a customer, and we'll get that answered for you.
Sure. You're talking about ERSs. John mentioned at the beginning of his presentation about how he likes to have the mileage put on the SRO. Currently, when you print a work order out of CloudSuite Field Service, that odometer reading is not printing. It's an ERS. It's in process. It's on the roadmap. I think it's first quarter that'll be done. And then there was the other question on TWL. That is in process. I don't know if that's probably second quarter. It's a ways out.
Yeah, we like to see the mileage and mileage and hours as well, if that's applicable, right? So. Yeah,
in CloudSuite Field Service, there's one reading, and we put hours or mileage in the same spot. And I think the way when we were using service warranty, I think that's how it worked. It wasn't two fields.
Okay.
Just for clarification, the TWL integration, I got a response from Infor. That is on the roadmap. It's It's scheduled for the January release.
And I think that's for CSFS, right? So I think the question was for, yeah. Steve, can I ask a question? You had obviously VIN numbers there. Was that loaded through a mass load, or was that done one at a time?
We did them one at a time. This is basically a SQL backend. I mean, someone at Infor could populate a table if you, because one thing that's not out there yet today, I know I've talked to Catherine in the past about this, and that was being able to take the vehicles table from SX and put it into CloudSuite Field Service. And yes, they can do it on a one-off, but there's no quick start to jump from one to the other yet.
Okay. Rodney, any other questions?
No, sir, not at this time.
Well, so Steve, can maybe you give us a history quickly of your journey in service and to CSFS? Maybe also comment on your migration from service warranty to CSFS and how easy that was to migrate, or gotchas, or.
Sure. Yeah, for us, so we were on a business system for 25 years, the old green screen world, and we were doing service in it with one of the better service software providers in our industry at the time. And when we made the move to Infor, we moved into service warranty. And you know what I found later after we got into that in 2015 is no one's on service warranty without a mod. I don't think I've run into anyone run service warranty without a mod. We actually did that, tried to do that. So we ran service warranty without a mod until we went to CloudSuite Field Service a year ago. And, you know, service warranty had its issues. We had people find ways of getting around it. And because we didn't mod it to make it work, they were trumping through some holes or hoops to make things work. We got into CloudSuite Field Service, and there were a few things that they wanted that weren't exactly how it was set up. And it was more of defining our processes. And when I mentioned that it's really easy to go in and do extensions and make fields required and default things, in Mongoose, which is what this is in, you literally can click a paintbrush, it'll open it up in a design window, and you can go in and say, okay, this particular field, I need it to default this value when I open this form, or I need it to be required. And it's really pretty intuitive to work through. And that's been a great way of defining our processes and getting things to default. And there's a lot of places in here that you can default values for the mobile app as well. So when you go in and say, hey, when I'm going to go add an expense, I typically want that to be shop supplies. So I want them to use the SUP part number, and it will automatically default in. If you're going to reimburse a tech, it'll default in to say, hey, he typically uses his credit card. So that's going to be the default answer. Things like that are the time savers. Take the time to look through the system, figure out how your process works, and then conform it to what you're trying to get done. If you just open this up and think you're going to use it right out of the box, I think it's like trying to open SX or CloudSuite Distribution right out of the box. If you don't take the time to set it up, you're just going to get frustrated.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't mention is not that anyone or everyone wants to follow up onto this path, but we signed to go to CloudSuite Field Service and CloudSuite Distribution last October. And we made the last move. We moved our SX database 1st of September. And we did that without having ICS. And I'm a one-man IT team. Actually, I have one other guy working for me now. But we really did it all ourselves, learned it, and implemented it. It can be done. So it's just a matter of knowing what the business and knowing what you need to get done.
John, we had one, probably more of a comment or an answer to a question from Sharon Jenkins. She was commenting about how you get your assets into CSFS, and she's indicated, and I think this is correct once you're on CSD, that this is a field that comes over. If you create a unit in CSD, it will automatically come over to CSFS.
Yeah. It brings over so you're talking about creating a unit like a serialized stock, it'll bring it over to CloudSuite Field Service, yes.
Right.
Steve, can you also comment, or Rodney, if you use environmental and shop supplies and how that works in CSFS or ISM?
We're in Texas. We don't know what environmental is.
Steve?
For us, we have shop supplies. So in CloudSuite Field Service, you can default it to a percentage of labor, a percentage of parts, and I believe the percentage of all. Problem right now is that there's no maximum. So if you're going to bill someone $10,000 worth of a service order or labor on a service order, and you say that shop supplies are 10%, it's going to bill them $1,000.
Right.
That might not be realistic. So, you know, one thing you got to have is some limits and things like that. And I know that that's an ERS I wrote up that we'd like to be able to put a minimum, maximum to those numbers.
Yeah, and I think SX service warranty does have that. So obviously, again, if we'll probably have to do a little bit of legwork after this call. There's lots of good ERSs that need to be supported and need to be moved forward. So
yeah, talking about the TUG boards, one John put out the other day was CloudSuite Field Service is currently showing quantity on hand in SX as the on hand in CloudSuite Field Service. And I did some research into that and did some tests, and he's right. It is using quantity on hand, and I think we all know that in SX, what's really for sale is net available, so it's minus committed. Right. And just bounced around with the people at Infor. That's something they're gonna look at making a change for. We got to write up an ERS for it and get it submitted, but a very realistic thing to ask for, and that's where we need everyone to get involved. If you're not speaking up and saying what's important to your business, it doesn't get changed.
Yeah, and I don't want to take credit for that one because that was another TUG member who had posted it. I just pushed it over to our forum because it was posted under the web UI and CSD piece, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think if it becomes more related to service, we should definitely hit our group as well and then get some traction on that. So is there any other questions, Rodney?
No, sir. I don't see any other questions at this time.
Okay. So I really appreciate, or we really appreciate all of you coming on this webinar today. Hopefully it was educational. I know we went through that pretty quickly, but again, this is one of many webinars that we plan on doing. So this is just to get our feet wet. We've had a couple technical difficulties today. I'm still learning the multiple screen logic. So hopefully next time it'll be a bit better. Obviously, my contact information is on the screen. You can reach out, call me, email me. I'm good with that. But as a group, as our panelist group, we really decided that we really want communication to go to the board, to the forum that we have, Assembly and Service. We need more. If I look at who posts all the time, it seems to be just me. So I need people to help. So I appreciate my panelists today. I think I voluntold them. I just gave them a date and said, this is going to happen. I also gave them another date of January 8th, and they were very, very good. Nobody complained. So I really appreciate Rodney, Steve, and Shawn for helping me out today. And we're also going to be looking for more participation in the coming months. Hopefully a couple from the Toro group can pop on, send me an email. Sharon, I know she's been an advocate of CSFS, so we'll be getting them on line as well. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to give it back to Gloria.
Hey, John, before we close a minute or so here, I just want to kind of, I know there's been a lot of conversation and ISM/CSFS has been somewhat slow moving for a lot of us over the last few years, but I just want to encourage everyone, because I know there's a lot of people on the fence and some that are even looking at other options that may have looked at this product at one time and decided that it just wasn't quite ready for prime time. The advancements that they've made in the product, and certainly the user adoption that we've had with the product, the success that we've had at Graphic Solutions, and certainly the success that Steve's had with Midwest Wheel. This is not a paid endorsement from Infor, but we selfishly want as many people as we can utilizing this product. The more users we get on the product and the more support we get from Infor and the more successful we can all be. And the product has really been tremendous for us. I think it's replaced at least 2 back-end administrative salaries with the workflow automations that we've been able to accomplish. And we're looking forward to more of that when we get to full CSFS with full mobile app deployment. So thank you all for your time, and we hope that you found this beneficial.
Well, I would like to say thank you, John, Rodney, Steve, and Shawn, for sharing your incredible wealth of knowledge with us today. And as with most of our webinars, this presentation will be available on our TUG website for future reference and posted to the appropriate forum board with a link for viewing on demand the next business day. We'd like to invite those of you who are members of the TUG community to continue this discussion in your online forums. Also look for those answers that we're looking for follow-up and more content. Our next webinar will take place this coming Tuesday with Connexium on the automation imperative, sales order automation. So watch your inbox and the TUG forum boards for registration links. For those of you who are not yet members, please jump over to theusergroup.org and join us today. You can see what a great community this is with regard to Infor distribution users. And on a final note, as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap.